Music can only mean one thing. It's Tony Messenger.
That's right.
Tony Messenger, happy 4th of July. Thanks for checking in.
Happy 4th of July to you, McGraw and Kelly. How you doing?
We are doing great. You had a column about Steve Stenger, I guess late last week, in which you really had to do your homework on this one to sort of figure and follow the money, if you will.
Well, what's interesting about this one is I wrote a column back in November about Steve Stenger, the county executive's top donors, giving him money through an anonymous LLC. David and Robert Glarner, who were developers, created this limited liability company called GiveCo. And they had given, at the time, $50,000 to Stenger in two $25,000 checks. And people were asking, who's this money from? Nobody knew. And Tom Sullivan, who is a sort of a citizen watchdog that shows up at county council meetings quite a bit, had gone to one of the county council meetings and said, hey, what's this $50,000 from related to this LLC? And so I decided to do some research and basically, and this is common in Missouri, you couldn't track the money. You couldn't know where GiveCo was because a lawyer set it up, and unless that lawyer happened, you wouldn't know. So I called Steve Stenger, and to his credit, he told me who the money was from. He said, oh, that's from the Glarners, my friends. They gave me the check. I knew it was from them. And so I wrote a column about this back in November, and it was mostly about the problems with campaign finance law in Missouri. And at the time, Stenger said, but, don't worry about that $50,000. They're not doing any business with the county. Well, lo and behold, they're doing massive business with the county. As Steve Gigrich, my colleague at the Post-Dispatch, reported a couple weeks ago, the county is now talking about switching its election board and some other county offices to a development that the Garners are building on the old Northwest Plaza site called the Crossings at Northwest, I think is what they're calling it. And they're about to sign a lease with Stinger's top donors that could net the Glarners $50 million over a 10 or 20-year period. And that's a massive change. And Stenger has said now that he was personally negotiating with the Glarners late last year. Well, late last year is when I wrote that column in which he said these folks have no business with the county. So something is up in terms of pay-for-play politics in St. Louis County, and it doesn't smell good.
All right, Tony Messenger. Did Steve Stenger or these Glarners do anything wrong illegally?
Well, there's a difference between wrong and illegal. In Missouri, almost nothing related to campaign finance is wrong or is illegal, but much of it is wrong. If Steve Stenger, and we don't know this, if Steve Stenger is taking these campaign finance contributions in exchange for certain business arrangements with the county, then yeah, that's wrong. And it's illegal if he's doing so explicitly. My guess is Steve Stenger is probably too smart to be recorded on a digital recording somewhere saying, oh, yes, if you give me $75,000, which is what the donations are up to now, I'm going to make sure you get some county business. It's not necessarily illegal, but there are a lot of questions over how it's being done. And remember, Steve Stenger ran on a platform of criticizing the former county executive for doing this sort of thing. That was his entire campaign, was that Charlie Dooley and his administration was corrupt because they were taking donations from developers, and then those developers were getting business. That was his campaign. And now we have that exact sort of thing happening. It looks really bad.
So, Tony Messenger, especially with the Supreme Court ruling last week, you've got Blagojevich sitting in jail for, quote-unquote, trying to sell a Senate seat. You have developers and special interests giving all sorts of big money checks to elected officials for all sorts of reasons. So as as unseemly as this looks to be with Steve Stenger, does this not go on every single day in every single elected official's office all across America, and especially here in Missouri?
I wouldn't say every single elected official, but yes, this kind of thing goes on. Frankly, I think that's why the electorate is so angry. If you listen to, and gosh, I hate to sound like I'm giving him any credit, but if you listen to both Bernie Sanders' message and occasionally Donald Trump's message, it changes all the time, so I can't figure out, which one is actually his message. But if you listen to those messages as it relates to campaign finance, they're talking about this stuff. They're talking about millionaires and billionaires buying government, and people are angry about it. And so if we don't draw attention to it, and we don't point out that in Missouri, that money can be given to a candidate without Joe Citizen being able to truly track it, then that's on us for not fixing it. We can fix this. We can make campaign finance more transparent if we want to as citizens, either through the ballot or through electing people that will fix the law, so that this kind of thing can't take place, or at least it's transparent enough that we know who's giving the money and we know when they're giving it and we know why they're giving it.
Tony, this story came out late last week. Any response from Steve Stenger or his team since this hit the website and the newspaper?
He has basically said, I've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong. This is a good deal for taxpayers. But by the way, the landlord where the election board sits right now said, hey, you know what? Nobody told me. Nobody asked me to bid. Nobody asked me to lower my lease costs. This is ridiculous. It's bad government. The people where the election board sits right now weren't even given an opportunity to bid or told, oh, by the way, we need to save some money. That raises a lot of questions. He's written a letter to the county council saying, you know what, you need to think before you pass this deal.
That's Tony Messenger, and bringing it strong after the 4th of July weekend. You like a firecracker. You just go off at 3 o'clock in the morning, ladies and gentlemen.
God bless America.
Tony Messenger, have a good week. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
Bye.
Every Thursday, Tony Messenger, ladies and gentlemen.
He brings it.
He brings it. No question about it. 8:25 here, Big 550.